Stop eating. Do me a favor. Before you go any further, you need to stop eating. Prices have gotten out of control. There's credit card debt, there's inflation, and until those prices at the grocery store come down, which might be in the next 6 months or so, you need to stop eating everything. Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, that's how I feel about people saying, don't buy houses, don't buy stock market, and stay uninvested because inflation's gotten out of control. Stick around, we'll talk about that and a lot more in this video. Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, February 7th. Wow, time's just flying by this year. It's amazing how fast time continues to go. So we're going to talk about inflation and how ridiculous some of these gloom and doomers have gotten, in my opinion. But before we do, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, smash that like button. I really appreciate the support. It helps YouTube's algorithm, which you all know. And if you're enjoying the content, it helps other people find it as well. The other thing is, keep in mind, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. I'm just a guy on YouTube talking about my experiences and the things I find in life. You guys need to do your own research and any financial decisions you make. Maybe even seek out a financial advisor for those choices. So let's talk about what's been going on, because not only do I create some stuff for YouTube, I watch a lot of it as well, and I really enjoy it. Since I found YouTube, I've enjoyed the channel, which I've mentioned. Google's one of the stocks I really like, partially because of this, because I see it continuing to grow. Now, there's so many people on there that are preaching gloom and doom. The housing market's going to collapse. They're also talking about the stock market's going to collapse. We have huge credit card debt and all these other things going on. What bothers me so much is, especially when I read through the comments, how many people are cheering it on, talking about how awful the government is, how terrible the owners of companies and CEOs making too much money, so on and so forth, and putting themselves in positions where they're accepting poor behavior from themselves and not trying to better their lives. Now, forgive me, I hate to be too harsh about it, but we're all thrown into the same world, and the playing field is unfair and fair all at the same time. We all get to play by the same rules of what goes on in the world, and you have to adjust for the inflation. Saying don't be involved, don't buy a house, don't buy equities, to me is a terrible suggestion to people. Just as bad as it would be to say not to eat food. You have to move on with your life, and I think investing is really important. I don't think it's a great idea to stay uninvested because you see things as overpriced. It's been proven time and time again that trying to time markets is extremely difficult. When I was really little, I remember the studies about monkeys that would pick stocks out of the newspaper, because that's where you got them when I was younger. And they would do just as well as the professionals. So why would you think that a market is overpriced today? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I wouldn't want to take that risk. My attitude is, the way I think about it is the stock market pays somewhere between 8 and 10% per year as long as you're invested over the long run. Well, if I don't put money in today, whenever today is, I'm losing that growth. It's supposed to grow somewhere between 8 and 10% over the long run. Maybe it drops tomorrow, maybe it goes higher, but the longer I can put my money in, which means the sooner I can do that, and the longer I can give it invested, the better chance I have of doing well. I'm not going to sit there and judge that it's overpriced or underpriced. I'm just going to put my money in and hope that it grows same as it has in the past. Now, obviously, as they say in all the disclosures, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. And I pick stocks. I don't just put them into mutual funds, because I like to think that if I stick with the companies that I think are the best, they'll outperform the overall market, because I won't have to mix in the ones that don't do well as well. Now, I might miss those ones like Palantir I don't own, and it's doing phenomenal, and maybe I just never own it and it goes, 10x on its money, because I try to stick with the ones that are tried and true. To be fair, though, sometimes I'll even dip in a little bit. Like, Snap came out with bad earnings and they're not doing so well. So I picked up a tiny little bit. But the reason I picked up a little bit is my son and all of his friends are on Snapchat all the time. Now, I've never used it. I don't use it. I'm not concerned about it. But I figure they're 13 years old. Maybe they grow out of it and never use it again. But maybe that's one of those things that kids continue to use throughout their life and it has ability to grow. Now, even if it grows, that doesn't mean maybe management sucks. I haven't done any diligence in terms of looking at their financials or making a judgment on the stock. I just figured it's down 35% today, and I know that thing's dinging all night long when he's trying to go to sleep because all of his little friends are on there doing whatever they're doing, chatting on it. So maybe there's a chance that it has some potential for the future. I don't worry about what it's going to do next week or next month or even next year. I figure it's a 10-year play on a small amount of money that if it goes to zero, it goes to zero. But outside of that, like I did a video the other day about buying a home. Where it bothers me the most is seeing all the ones that are so gloom and doom talking people out of buying a home. If you're looking to buy your primary residence, where you live for you and your family. Now, forgive me again, this is not financial advice. You guys need to make your own decisions. But if you're looking to buy somewhere for you and your family, why would you worry about if it's overpriced or underpriced? When I think of buying a home for me and my family, like really, I bought my dream home, like, and we can afford it. We can make the payments. We had the down payment money. But this is where me, my wife, and my kids live. It's where we plan to stay. I don't want to have to worry about a landlord making changes in their life that then impact our life, and we have to make decisions as to where to go from there or how we adjust based on somebody else's life. It's not simply about my hope that this house goes up in value because I'm not looking to sell it. I have no plans of doing anything with it. So, whatever my kids get at the time they get whatever they get, why am I worried if it's worth more or less or whatever it is? I just plan to make my payments and continue to do that and pay the house off over time. And in the meantime, I get a place to live in the area I want to be, near my friends, near the school, near my kids' friends, near my wife's friends, and we get to enjoy the property. I'm not super concerned about the math as to whether I would have done better renting and I would have been better off doing this or I would have been better off doing that. It gives me a sense of security on top of the fact that there's a pride of ownership. We can, make the yard nicer. We can do the kitchen how we like. We can paint the walls if we feel the need and the furniture and whatever else with never having to worry about some landlord making a decision that impacts our life. Now, if you want to look at an investment property, I'll be happy to talk you through the math and figuring it out. And I do think you should have some positive cash flow. I think there are places right now across the country where that still can happen. And there are places where prices have gotten to a point in the interest rates where it may not make sense. But I think that you have to look at that if you're looking at an investment property. Equities, I think you should always be buying equities. You should be always putting money in the stock market. Same thing, why would I be so fearful of a collapse? It comes along very rarely. And if you think you can time a stock market collapse, more power to you. Uh, I mean, I've watched people stay out of the stock market for 10-year periods waiting for the collapse that did eventually come. But when it eventually came, the market never came anywhere close to where they got out of the market. So maybe it happens tomorrow, maybe it happens next week, but maybe it happens in 10 years. And I don't want to not own Meta. I don't want to not own Google. And I don't want to not own Amazon because I picture a collapse coming sometime in the future. And me trying to predict that it's coming next week is ridiculous. So why would you scare yourselves out of the market just because you find yourself in a tough position and because people on YouTube are talking about this terrible economy? I am well aware that there's credit card debt that's higher than it's ever been. I am aware that the foreclosure rate is beginning to tick up. I'm also aware that cars are beginning to be repoed and a bunch of the other things that they continue to talk about. That still doesn't mean I'm going to try to make a prediction that it crashes next week and I'm going to stay uninvested or put my money into gold and treasuries and scared assets. Now, if I want to have some of that as part of my overall portfolio as protection, great. But I sure don't want to be not invested in the other things because I'm so scared of the economy. Like, really, work your job, make your bills, and put away as much as you can. And if you know about something that you have a better understanding of than somebody else, like I like collectibles. I think they're a great place to be. I wish I knew more about artwork. I think that's probably a good space too. I just don't know anything about it, and I'm not about to get scammed buying the wrong thing because that's the problem with getting into things you don't know about. But if you know something in your specific area, by all means, that's a great place to invest. And again, stick with the basics. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to worry about all the numbers and the things that the people on TV like. I find it interesting, so I get it and I understand it, but I really don't worry about it because I see it all as noise. I mean, let's use Nvidia and Meta as an example because they've had such an extreme move recently. That wouldn't stop me in investing in them. They're great companies. And in 10 years, my guess is they've continued to grow and do well. Who knows what pace it's at, but they're still companies I want to own. I don't worry about today's price and is it overpriced or underpriced. Look back, if you go about a year and a half ago or so, Meta was trading at its old highs not that far from here. It fell all the way down to $80 a share or something before going all the way back up. Well, you still wanted to own it. I understand if you paid too close attention, that might have looked scary. And to be fair, it did look scary. But these are still great companies that I want to own for 10 years. And I don't want to let nervousness for the short run scare me out of being invested. Yeah, and these guys might be talking about a terrible economy for the next 5 or 10 years. And I would expect over the next 5 or 10 years that the stocks have done well. And if they're, at the point where they're finally correct and you see a correction, my guess is the stocks don't fall to where they are now and you might have missed a good opportunity. Again, you need to make your own decisions. Don't listen to me. I'm just some idiot on YouTube, but I do love the markets. I've been watching them a long time. Doesn't feel like 2008 to me. It feels more like inflation and cost of living has gone up. I don't expect it to go back to where it was. No different than I don't expect the cost of an egg to go back to where it was, or the cost of a movie ticket, or a concert ticket, or going out to dinner. I just think we've seen inflation, and housing is no different, and no different is stock market. Keep in mind, as inflation happens, the stocks actually do really well because they benefit from higher prices. If you have 10% or 15% margins and prices go up and you sell the same products, you make more dollars, which will drive your stock price up as well. So you have to really think it through and decide for yourself. I just don't want to see people scaring you out of buying a home or investing. It seems silly. And then what ends up happening is if you don't put the money away, you probably spend it on going out to dinner instead of saving for your future. Anyway, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Don't forget again, subscribe, thumbs up, like. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being there. Bye bye.